Karen Holton TV presents the Quantum Guide Show, featuring ordinary people sharing their extraordinary gifts within our social reality. Hi, everybody. How you doing? I'm really excited to bring back to the Quantum Guide Show today my returning guest and my friend, Ryan Patrick Burns. Ryan Patrick Burns began researching Ryan Patrick Burns began researching the Uintah Basin and the mysterious Skinwalker Ranch years ago. But when his passion for answers could no longer be quenched, he left his corporate job in Salt Lake City and he moved to the desolate and remote basin to investigate the ranch full time. Ryan now owns property overlooking the ranch, and he hosts the popular podcast Hero Paranormal. And he's also written about his experiences investigating Skinwalker. Today, we discuss the possibility of at least one breakaway civilization in our time, and perhaps many more throughout our history. Is a breakaway civilization part of the New World Order? Follow the missing money and draw some conclusions about what the outcomes might be. All of the links are below in the description box. I want to thank you in advance for subscribing. Please leave me a comment and do smash that like button. YouTube channel memberships are also available, so you can receive my perks and help to support my channel. Without further ado, I'll bring Ryan onto the stage and check out who's in the live chat today. Hi, Ryan. How you doing?
Doing great, Karen. Great to be here talking with you. Appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you, my friend. We always get into some really interesting discussions. So, I'm so happy that you're here. I want to talk a bit about the breakaway civilizations. And then, I want to hear what's going on with you and, Skinwalker and Space Wolf and all those other good things. But first, I just want to check in with the live chat and say hi to everybody. We've got some big fans of yours here. We've got Helena is here. And we've got Denise. Denise says, welcome back, Ryan. We've got some links for Ryan. And we got some more links for Ryan. Oh, Denise, you do such a great job of posting everything in the live chat. I'm so very fortunate to have you. You have my back, and you really help the show to be even more successful. And yes, if you want to support my work, you can click on the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. All the links are below for Ryan and also for myself. And let's see. Oh, we have got, listen to this. We've got your big fan, Fearlessly Phoenixing here today. She says, so ready for this. Ryan and Karen in the same place. It's like Christmas all over again. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, we've got somebody new. Cheryl Carter. Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show. How lovely. And, Fearlessly reminds everyone, be sure to tap that like button and share this out. And isn't that sweet? She also says that this show today has two of my favorite creators. Thank you so much. You're so very, 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 very kind. Denise sends love to everybody. And I think, Hillbilly Herb. Hillbilly Herb is also with us today. Hi, Hillbilly Herb. Nice to see you. Okay, so we're caught up saying hi to everybody, all the early comers. Ryan, why don't we start off with you telling us what you've been up to and, where people can find you and all that other kind of good stuff before we even get started, if that's okay.
Absolutely, Karen. Again, such an honor to talk to you. I always enjoy it, and we've been so on the same wavelength. The other day when you reached out to me, I was literally thinking, Ryan, you have to reach out to her right now, and and there you were. So I'm always fascinated at how that works. Speaking of the quantum level, so yeah, I've actually been delving pretty deeply into some physical aspects of quantum engineering and delving into the theorizing of how to create certain mechanisms to not only engage with non-human intelligence, but more importantly, to engage the user into accessing the quantum level more easily and rapidly. Because I think humans technologically, we kind of have these training wheels on nowadays because historically, you go back 2, 3,000 years, people were very easily connected with what we would consider non-human intelligence on a regular basis. And
Mhm.
nowadays, we have trouble even looking up at the sky if we're going throughout our day. So we it seems like we need a little bit of a nudge or a little help or training wheels to do that. So I'm trying to help others to kind of get on board with that. So I've been doing that, and of course, I've been very involved with everything going on. I think that there is a disclosure movement taking place. Even
Yep.
Trump talking in Davos, he had some little nuggets of information that I think a lot of people didn't take for what they are actually worth, but true gold that he may or may not have slipped out on purpose. There's rumors that he will be discussing some disclosure items in July, and there's some amazing explosive bombshells coming out of the Varginha, Brazil incident through people
Yes.
like James Fox and Colehart. Yeah.
Mhm. Lots going on. Hang on to your hats. We're in 2026, and I think it probably will not disappoint, at least as far as the news goes. So, Ryan, I don't know a lot about breakaway civilizations, but I do know I have a great respect for Catherine Austin Fitz. She was on Tucker Carlson, and she was talking about all the missing money. Where has it gone? And that she and some other experts did some calculations, and they believe that it was to create a subterranean utopia that those with all the power and finances can escape to should we get an asteroid or who knows what. And so they're all feeling all safe. I got more to add to that, but I'll talk about that later. But I've also heard stories of apparently there's off planet breakaway civilizations, a lot of talk about people who have already been to Mars and all kinds of stuff. I'm wondering, I know that you've got your ear to the all the time to the ground. So I'm wondering, what do you know? What do you think is going on? And what would you like to share with the audience today?
Well, as many of you know, I bounce back and forth from two very interesting areas, very different but both very unique. One is the Uinta Basin of Utah, a property that shares a fence line with the old Bigelow Ranch, or what's known as the Utah UFO Ranch, and Las Vegas, Nevada, which at first, Las Vegas, Nevada sounds like, oh, a place where you can go and engage in debauchery. But
Mhm.
there is an underlying component to Las Vegas, Nevada. It is, in essence, sort of a hotbed for breakaway civilization. It is a place that's extremely unique in our country because of the proximity to bases, military components, unnamed aerospace facilities, and everything else you can imagine from a governmental intelligence standpoint. And soon it will also be the only place to have a spaceport that is not military in nature, but privately funded. So it's a speculative area, but it's also on a higher vibrational level when it comes to this breakaway civilization theory. And for those who are unfamiliar, there's a few different breakaway civilization theories.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those come from science fiction, specifically these elites, or as you like to call them, and I enjoy that term, the parasite class, or secret societies or remnants of ancient advanced civilizations, potentially like Atlantis, that operate behind the scenes. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to hide much, because what they're hiding is stuff that the common people don't believe in anyway. And I've
Perfect.
seen that
Yeah.
in Las Vegas. You can hide things in plain sight and people don't notice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, I would agree with that too. Another thing that is totally fiction, science fiction, there's a series, I believe, on Prime that's made from the video game called, oh my gosh, it just left my mind. Oh my gosh. Oh, if anyone knows, put it in the chat. I'm sorry, guys, I'm getting old. What's it called? Fallout. It's called Fallout. It's based on the game called Fallout Las Vegas. And it's very disturbing because so much what's featured in that series, especially season 2, is not that far off from what we speculate might be happening in this world. But I was thinking, all these people that go down into these underground utopia, and they're down there for a while. When they come up, what they expect and what they're going to get may not be the same thing. So, not saying I wish them evil, not at all, but I'm just saying I thought that series was, wow, very interesting. Lots of things that we've speculated about are in that. I don't know, have you seen Fallout on Ryan?
I quite enjoyed it. And I like that it talked about, how this fringe idea of people who can afford it being spared in these end of times events. Uh, it's a very real thing. All you have to do is look up Mark Zuckerberg's base that he's building, or just recently, the idea was theorized, and Elon Musk, without batting an eye, agreed to it, for a high-speed maglev train from Las Vegas to Reno. And he said, yeah, we can get this done, lickety split really quick. I think it went 600 miles an hour. So this is interesting because, as you mentioned Mars before, I knew the previous Mars expert. I say previous because Elon Musk is very much the breakout superstar when it comes to Mars now. But the
Mm-hmm.
previous top chief head scientist having to do with Mars, with NASA. And what he told me is that we know a lot more than they're letting out. And they didn't like the idea that this kind of, at the time, very impulsive, energetic, recluse space cowboy, is how he was described to me, Elon Musk, was coming on the scene, because it was very likely that he was going to let some of this stuff slip out. So I don't know if he has or not, but he's someone who would be very much aware of the suppressed technology and the fringe ideas we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know what, Ryan, let's talk about the missing money. Let's talk about the missing money. How many audits now, how many years in a row has the military budget been audited and they can't account for? I probably would get it wrong. Do you have any idea how much?
It's absolutely ridiculous. Best case scenario, 75% is missing. Worst case scenario, I've heard it's 85% and above. And this is without taking on the possibility of black budget Pentagon projects. So that's a whole other rabbit hole. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're able to basically take that money and spend 70, I mean, just imagine, taxes are horrible, but just imagine doing your taxes and on the first line you say, hey, 75% of this, I have no idea what's going on. That is what our military does, and nobody bats an eye or says a word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Denise, thank you so much. You did not have to do that. I appreciate you very much, all the work you do to help my channel to be successful. But thank you. Thank you. Very, very kind of you. Very generous. Thank you. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the money, Ryan, 75% of what? How much money are we actually talking about here?
If you take the military expense budget, which I don't know what it is off the top of my head, I heard Tim Burchett discussing, he was infuriated because a lot of this enters into the category of technologies that are beyond public knowledge. In other words, the things we're talking about, the hidden possibility or presence that they are operating secret underground bases, underwater facilities, even off world
Mm-hmm.
locations. And the easiest way to fund those projects, if you're not using black budget money, which they have a ton of, is
Mm-hmm.
to control and influence the mainstream military budget and basically manipulate some of that money into these projects and not have to explain themselves at all. Because at a
Mm-hmm.
certain level, they just say you don't have a need to know. And
Mm-hmm.
that's that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's talk about some of these underground. I know some of them are what they call dumbs, deep under. Help me out here, Ryan.
Yeah,
Deep.
deep underground military bases.
Thank you. So there's those, and that apparently they you can't even see them from the surface, but there's like a little shed or something. You go in, and the floor drops out, and you end up going down many, many, many levels. And apparently each level has a different thing going on that they don't want us to know about. And I believe that includes genetic experiments. It could possibly include ETs captured or working with the government, many, many levels below the ground. Then we have the then we have the um, I guess you would call them, well, I guess they're still deep underground habitats that people, some of them are like whole cities, and some of them are just people who can afford it and have property are building kind of like little bit fancy bomb shelters and things like that. Apparently, there is a transport system, an anti-grav or anti-gravitic system that's very fast that can shoot people from one area to another. So there's military applications, there's domestic or, society applications. How big? Who knows? But according to some people, like for instance, the missing 411 guy, put a map of all the hotspots for the missing people, and then he put a map, superimposed it with a map that showed these transportations and these different settlements, literal settlements underground that and they were almost the same, which opens it up to a whole new, I suppose, conspiracy theory. But we're not talking about little tiny places and bomb shelters. We're talking about full on societies with great opulence and apparently also um, different sources of energy that we don't have access to here on the surface. What are your thoughts, Ryan, about all that?
You're hitting all the main points and firing on all cylinders, Karen. All the stuff that they don't want you to talk about, you've brought up. the energy is huge, the 0 point energy, and the descriptions of the energy that power these locations. I've seen vents to some of these locations, and I've been on site or in close proximity. To give you an idea of just, again, coming back to Nevada and Utah, where I bounce back and forth from,
Mm-hmm.
there is Area 51 and Area 52. Area 52 is less known. That's Dugway Proving Ground, known as DPG. And that covers nearly 8,000 acres, or I'm sorry, 800,000 acres. To put this into
Wow.
perspective, that's 1,300 square miles. And it now connects with Area 51, which is larger than that. So to give just a perspective of something nearby in my backyard, we have 800,000 acres with Dugway that we know of, and more than that with Area 51. They now connect, and then we have a number of other secret military bases. There's a submarine base in Nevada, of all places, which is rumored to have tunnels going all the way to Coronado, which is near San Diego, and a number of other bases that we don't know about. So, and as
Mm-hmm.
far as the maglev trains, I've been out in the desert. I've heard things that sound similar to a maglev train. To put things into perspective, I can't mention names, but somebody I know went to a hairdresser, and the hairdresser was taking care of them. And for whatever reason, military bases came up, and the hairdresser said, "Yeah, my brother works out there at the base." And this person I know asked, how do they get there? Oh, he takes the train early in the morning. And she said, "What train?"
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the underground train. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not just trains and automobiles. There's also now currently 4 Janet flights moving out of Harry Reid International Airport, which are, Janet stands for just another non-existent tail number, because these
Yeah.
planes have 0 markings. They just have employees going out to a base that doesn't exist. And if you
Mm-hmm.
think this stuff doesn't exist, as an example, and it's a horrible example, but remember the whole Storm Area 51 thing, when people were just jokingly going to go out and like watch some musicians and enjoy each other's company. There was a full-on military outpost that moved to the region to protect the base. So I get it. If there's nothing going on out there, I wouldn't have expected such a drastic show of
Mm-hmm.
force. But at the same time, you don't have to go on site to know that something is going on. Um, it's a massive amount of square miles and hundreds of thousands of acres, millions of acres involved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've heard too. And I thought what a phrase came to mind when you were saying about how they moved all that extra military there back when we were all going to do the Naruto run. It was just basically something fun, that people speculated about and said, hey, let's go do it. And like you said, have some bands and some music and probably some beers or whatever. But the Shakespeare phrase, the lady she protesteth too much, anything that they rush to protect and guard smacks of something they don't want us to find. So there's all that. I know this isn't exactly on topic, but it's pretty close. Right now, they're meeting in Davos. And boy, those with the power and money, I know the parasite class, boy, they're getting a strip taken off of them left, right, and center because of all their basically stupid ideas that have just led to all kinds of failures and problems. They wanted the new Green Deal and, the windmills and this and that, and none of that can supply the energy. Uh, they've been basically caught with their pants down over how much energy the AI centers are going to need in order to power them. And then they're talking about how now they're telling those that own the AI companies or whatever, that now they have to pay for their own energy, which means they've been taking it from the common people like they do with everything. It's just so nuts. Do you have any thoughts? Have you had a chance to follow anything? I think you mentioned that Trump sort of hinted at some things, but I'm wondering if you caught on to anything that you want to add to the discussion. It is kind of relevant because I think, yeah, I think this whole breakaway civilization thing is certainly, it's for them. It's not for us.
Yeah. Yeah, the Davos thing, don't get me started. Oh my gosh. I mean, talk about fearlessly jumping in a nest of pit vipers. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, the interesting thing, one thing he let out a little bit was, this recent abduction of Maduro in
mm-hmm,
Venezuela. I believe he said something along the lines of like, their guys were ready to shoot our guys. We weren't going to have that happen. And he didn't talk about the technology involved to just shut everything down. And this
mm-hmm,
is the sort of breakaway civilization stuff we're talking about. Right there in plain sight, everybody at this point knows that direct energy weapons were used, sonic weaponry, non-lethal weaponry was used, that nobody has any idea. I mean, yeah, I've seen schematics and how it works, but nobody has any idea or understands how it was implemented, but it was used. And the same is true of the power sources for power generation that a lot of these purported locations use, things that are 0 point gravity energy solutions, things
mm-hmm.
along the lines of, well, I mean, they've changed and they've gone from absolutely impossible to magnificently impossible and maximally extended. To give you an idea, I was lucky enough to have a couple really high ranking intelligence officials in my home. And the conversation came up, and they know me, and they have to get debriefed after they hang out with me. I don't even have these guys' phone numbers, but we know each other. And uh, they basically were talking. One was saying that he was working on a project where there was enough energy in a drop of water that could be used, for example, to power all of Las Vegas. And
Wow.
the other one chimed in, this seems absolutely impossible or mind boggling, but they found something more powerful and potentially less difficult to come across in the scenario that we don't have water. So these versions continue to be maximally extended. And a lot of the energy is already there. Like things like black holes aren't black holes at all. These are just naturally occurring portals, similar
Mm-hmm,
to Einstein-Rosen bridges. And people are finding out that, hey, if these things are occurring naturally, we can also kind of in a Stargate way create our own. So this stuff's happening. It's just those that are open and willing to believe and those
mm-hmm,
who just stick their head in the sand and won't look at it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep, yep. I'm wondering, tied into this, I think, as well, is the whole Space Force. Do you know anything about Space Force? Like, we hear nothing, absolutely nothing. We know there's money going into that. Do you think that they're able to have technologies to get them to like Mars and different places without it taking years to get there and people having to go to sleep till they get there and all there's, I know you just mentioned the time bridges or the, I'm sorry, my brain isn't working today, the rosin, whatever, the bridge. What can you tell us about that, and is that tied into Space Force, and what is Space Force even doing?
Okay, so the Einstein-Rosen bridge
Thank you.
basically manipulating space-time and utilizing things like wormholes to travel. It's a lot easier. I mean, you're going to need propulsion to do a little bit of kind of like in space generally what we see. You're going to need some of that, but the reality is getting there, right? The jump is
Yeah,
the big deal.
yeah.
And when it comes to Space Force, this is something else that has absolutely astounded everybody that I've come across. For example, back in the 90s, there were rumors of a craft known as the Venture Star that could get to the moon by lunch. You could have lunch on the moon and come back home. And it sounds like a joke until you know somebody that's talking about it. And
Mm-hmm.
currently with Space Force has always sort of been there. It's something that's gone by many names, names like Solar Warden.
Yes.
We've always known that there's a secret space program. Only thing is now the secret space program is out in the open, but nobody knows what it's doing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's genius. Space Force has all sorts of different craft in its possession. Probably the one most people know about is the X-33. Many of those vehicles are the X-33Bs. These are allegedly unmanned vehicles that at any given point are going all over the place. Now they've upgraded to the X-37B, but the reality is we're past that as well. Whatever they tell you they have something bigger and better. And
Mm-hmm.
these are specifically and mainly utilized in so much as the information I'm gathering. These are used for surveillance purposes. And when I'm talking surveillance, I mean everything. You don't need a cell phone anymore to be tracked. You do not need any of this stuff. People that I've talked to said when new recruits realize that they could care less about the cell phones, thinking, when they can find things out about them, even when they don't have their cell phones or their iWatches on, they realize they can be surveilled almost anywhere. And this is the type of stuff I think that a lot of the technology that Space Force has is being utilized for and used very well. It's being used very well. There is evidence of that with the fact of what just happened in Venezuela, how they got Maduro, how they were waiting at the bunker. They knew where he was going. And they
Mm-hmm.
also utilized new craft that new drone-like craft that nobody has seen. And it was deploying all sorts of technology. So yeah, we have the stuff. It's just a matter of when we find out about it and what they have operational.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, I would agree with you. Um, yeah, I mean, we live in a world that was unimaginable. A lot of it was unimaginable about 10 years ago. Now, a lot was going on, but it hadn't hit the common consciousness of humanity yet. Now it's hitting us. Now we're figuring stuff out. So we had a few whistleblowers. The Solar Warden program, was that Snowden that exposed that? And or no, or was it somebody else in England? But anyway, there was a guy and he was just hacking. He was just poking around and he found out that they did not have very good password protection on anything. And he found that they had this program called Solar Warden, but they also had military members. I don't think it said whether they were human. Yes, Gary McKinnon, exactly. I don't know if, I
I
don't
think he
know.
described them as off-planet officers.
Yeah, but he didn't say they were human or non-human. So that one kind of got me interested, and they sure wrapped his knuckles for that. And we've been hearing about a lot of this. I do think that we're coming into the age where transdimensional, which is interdimensional travel, is now also within the public awareness. And more of us are having those kind of experiences. And there seems to be also a marrying between spirituality and science fiction as of late as well. It's all very, very fascinating. But, not to sound morbid, but, I was thinking about it the other day. Obviously, we are not going to be allowed to go down into these places. And, honestly, I wouldn't want to. Can you imagine being stuck with a bunch of people who are, well, I don't want to say really bad things about them, but I don't think I would have a lot in common with them. To me, it seems they're very delusional on what they think. The reality they talk about is so different than the one that I recognize. I don't think I would want to be around them, not to mention all their nasty habits that they would take with them. And I won't get into too much about that. But I was thinking about what's the worst that could happen to us, those of us that are on the surface, the expendable crew members, as I like to call us sometimes. And I was thinking, number one, if something happened like a big disaster or solar flare or comet or who knows what, at least I'd be in really good company. It means we would all cross over into the afterlife together. We'd all be together more than we can even be together now. Like I see my daughter and grandkids, if I'm lucky, twice a year because of the distance. Well, we'd all be passing over together. I know that sounds kind of morbid, but it brings me terrific amount of comfort. And and I've been looking for positive things. So, long story short, the reason I'm doing that is not because I'm delusional. I'm doing it because it gives me comfort and it actually makes me feel more peaceful. So, whatever's coming is coming, and there's not much we can do about it. I think this trying to live forever thing is also tied in to the breakaway civilizations, and they're doing absolutely horrible things. I'm not going to say too much, but I watch a gal named Lei, spelled Lei. I think it's called Lei's Straight Talk. And she reports on what's going on, not just in China, but also in, all the Asian type nation states, right? And the stuff she reports on that is being done to babies and to other humans is so gross, so gross. But the main reason they're doing that is they want to live forever. And the world leaders, when they get together, they're joking, yeah, now we get to live forever. In Canada, we have the MAID program where they're talking everybody into taking suicide drugs. But you know what? They have to harvest the organs while you're alive. Well, now it's come out. Canada's leading in this organ harvesting. So there's it's nuts. And I don't want any part of any of that. I'm wondering if you have something you want to say and add about that, Ryan.
100%. The parasite class you're talking about, the ones that ancestrally, these colonizing entities that whenever there is any type of a dystopian or calamity or natural disaster, they head underground and then they resurface, right? These are the people that are scared of dying. They want to maintain their bloodline in the material world. And what we're finding out through a lot of the quantum dynamics is that the material world is not all it appears to be. In fact, humankind can only see something like 2.5% of the spectrum. And these colonizing entities, whether you want to call them the custodians, these go all the way back to days of the Anunnaki. I've heard them called the custodians, but the reality is they don't want to let go of power. And it's because of that fear of death. And they are mostly attributed with praising entities that do exactly the type of stuff you're talking about. Entities like Remphan, Baal, Moloch, entities that demand human sacrifice because these hidden realms are death cults. And they're so scared of death that the only way they can gain power from the material world is by having these rituals. But to your point, I don't think they realize the cycle of this is probably a lot faster and quicker than they ever imagined. In other words, it's sort of like the king in the castle when he sees the pitchforks and the torches. He's like, oh, here we go again. They're uprising, and he takes care of it. Well, the cycle of that uprising is quicker and quicker. And in my opinion, the cycle of the energy spectrum, in other words, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, but the cycle of souls is becoming quicker and quicker, where it's becoming evident that there's a reason that the adversary, the shaitan, the devil, whatever you want to call him, and the entities below them that are being praised by a lot of these multi-generational power structures, they're realizing like, oh my gosh, like the scales are tipped, like we can't win no matter what we do, because the cycle is just getting faster and faster. And when it comes to the Greenland stuff and Davos, this brings up a really important thing when it comes to breakaway civilization, which is the theory of terra infinita, which is this alternate history that there are interconnected worlds. In other words, through this world, that our world is not exactly what it appears to be either. And that we may have multiple realities taking place in the same material existence. So there's a lot there.
There is. There really is. I also saw recently that, it used to be people fighting over globe Earth, flat Earth. Now, what's coming out is a lot of people are saying we live on a flat Earth that's on a much bigger global planet, and we're in this little contained habitat, like a little habitat and we believe that's all there is, and we believe we're flying through space. I'm not trying to get onto the the subject of flat Earth. I have to have you back and have somebody else on who can address that too. But I'm just saying that it kind of does make some sense. So now there's all these images. Now we have AI images. There's all these images of, us surrounded by the ice wall, and then on the outside there's all these continents. I mean, that is another concept for breakaway civilization as well. And I noticed that after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, J.D. Vance says, "I'll see you in Valhalla." And what's funny about that, not funny ha-ha, but funny about that, is there is a landmass continent on the other side of the ice wall, also called Valhalla. So, maybe that's where JFK and who knows, Charlie Kirk and others have been removed, and they've been put on these other continents. There's no way they can really get back, keeps them isolated without them actually killing anybody. I don't know. I know it's way out there, but I just thought I'd
I don't
throw
know.
that in
I don't
there.
think it's that far out there, Karen. I think you're right on point, because this theory of domes comes into place, things like the Van Allen belt. And the reality is, the one thing we know that space goers, or those involved with space travel, see as the biggest problem is the time it would take to go from here to here. And we're realizing that is no longer the technology that they are using. They're now using, well, wormholes or jumps, or what they're calling, it's a totally different type of astrophysics than mainstream academic research. And it's involving 0-point energy vacuums. And that's much different than your standard propulsion physics. So the only way to get past a dome, for example, if we have something like the Van Allen belt that kills absolutely everything that goes into it, allegedly, and this is stuff people like NASA, Werner von Braun, the amazing NASA scientist that was brought over with Project Paperclip, basically the founder of our modern space travel, he basically said that, yeah, there's things going on we don't understand. And the easiest way to do advanced deep space, even NASA agrees to this now, is called NASA JSCs, that are basically advanced deep space transport technology assessment groups. So we're talking about groups that are separate, again, breakaway from the mainstream NASA stuff going on. And these breakaway groups are talking about things like Eric Davis, who worked for NIDS, worked for Hal Puthoff, worked for a number of people. And that has ties back to the Bigelow Ranch. But we're talking about scientists that are realizing the fastest way from point A to point B is not in between, but just going immediately from point A to point B. And space transport technology is going along the lines of wormholes or jumps, or it's just totally opposite of the propulsion we understand. So I don't think you're far off at all. If we have this theory of domes, and even the Bible talks about a firmament, and we have in other planetary systems, we have even more dangerous alleged planetary systems with fields of meteorites and everything else. the easiest way to potentially get to those planets is through traversable wormholes. And it seems like it's a realistic thing. The evidence is in the laboratory, and the laboratory has provided the data. So it's something, if you can do it in a lab, you can do it in the real world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're also coming out with theories that we're surrounded by plasma. We may not know that we're surrounded by plasma, and they're just really starting to discover what plasma is all about. So there's so many alternate realities. In my own alternate reality, aboard the big ship, the way it traveled, it didn't actually travel. It sits in interdimensional space so that many beings from many different realities can come and go. But when they want to move it, point A becomes point B. It literally becomes. It is so cool. There's no going anywhere, not like getting in a boat and rowing along. And it amazes me with all the technologies we know are possible and are probably developed here on Earth. We're still stuck with the same crap for the last 100 years. The stove hasn't changed much. Well, now you can get the glass top ones, but a lot of people don't even have those. They got the old, the ring that heats up, or the gas stove, the old washers and dryers. Even the vacuum cleaners are not that, and I guess maybe that's because women's work, well, I shouldn't say that, because guys do probably just as much as women do nowadays, but it's like domestic is not very important because they're sure not putting much technology into it. But it's bizarre. So I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say I believe there are breakaway civilizations, and I think it started probably maybe even before World War II with the rise of Hitler and the Nazi. I know I'm probably not supposed to say that on YouTube, but with the rise of those powers, I think. And then, of course, there's Antarctica, another whole reality there where you could call it underground or breakaway civilizations. I don't know. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Ryan?
That's huge. That is a breakaway civilization, in my opinion. And Antarctica, if you just see what is going on down there, 33 countries minimum. If you just look at McMurdo, which is like home base where everybody is familiar with, just that base alone is a breakaway civilization with what they have going on down there. And
Mm-hmm.
this is an excellent example of why we need Greenland too. It's not just military strategy. I'm hearing a lot of information that there may be important items also up in that region, and that
Yes.
Greenland serves as sort of it, not to get too new agey, but that Greenland serves as sort of the upper chakra of the earth. And of course, Antarctica would be the sacral region. And if you look at any of these projects, typically what happens, the way you know that you're onto a good project is when they disband, whether it's NASA, whether it's something with ties to a secret space program or Solar Warden or anything along those lines. When you have these breakthrough programs in physics disband, that means they nailed it. They're now renaming it, and it's being moved into another arena. And that's when you know you're really onto something. And it's the worst thing you can do with these breakaway technologies or civilizations is keep them all under the same umbrella. It's kind of like they say in financial investing, diversify. You want to get as many out there as you can. So there are multiple breakaway civilizations. In fact, Epstein Island in its own right was sort of a breakaway civilization. It's a
Mm-hmm.
place where people were doing whatever they were doing there, and nobody else knew about it for decades. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's something just in the mainstream. Just imagine what you can do when you're really behind the scenes.
Yes, totally. And I don't know if this is true, but I've seen some podcasts where they claim that there's a huge no-fly zone in the Pacific Ocean, huge, and everything has to go around it. So what's there? Something they don't want us to see. So again, is it Lemuria or Mu or fragments of, or, who knows? There's so much. But I'm like a kid in the candy store. I can't wait to explore everything and see what's available. And I actually think that there's going to be whistleblowers that are going to come out and expose. I also believe that there are the offspring of the parasite class who may be fed up with what their parents and grandparents and great grandparents have been conditioning the world to take. And they may have a sense of a conscience come through as well. So I think, but I know one huge part of this is the ET disclosure. And I don't know about you, Ryan, but my experiences with ET is they're guileless. They rely on telepathy. So they don't have, there's no point in trying to be devious and hide stuff. And they're not like us that way. They're not like us in a lot of ways. And that's partly why I do the Aliens and Angels podcast, is to bring some of that out. So, yeah. And then again, if they give us technologies, right, that have been denied to us, we may even see our own breakaway civilizations to other realms as well. So I find it all very, very exciting. But I don't know. I don't believe that the parasite class has all the answers, and I don't think that they can keep going within the trajectory they've been on. I just don't see it. And I think that we're, as the expendable crew members here, I think that we're awakening. I think the whole ascension thing where we can hold higher frequencies. I do have an off-topic question, though, I want to ask you, but I want to let you answer that in case there's anything you want to add to it. And then I'm going to ask you my other question.
I like what you said about whistleblowers when it comes to these examples, because I'll tell you a quick story. This is going back quite a few years in the Uinta Basin of Utah. There was a massive ranch, over 6,000 acres for sale. And there was a Russian component involved with this multinational corporation that was involved with intelligence that wanted to purchase this ranch, but purchase this ranch off the books and do so with gold bars. And the buyer, I was talking with the broker / real estate agent that was going to do the deal. And this individual came and said, how do we do this? And she basically said, hey, I can lose my license if I sell something to someone, but you don't change the name on the title and recording. And when she was asking what they wanted the property for, she was told for Stargate technology, portal technology. And the concept was that they would stick something in this property with an unknown technology, and that for whatever reason, it would come out in Cape Coral, Florida, 15 minutes later, intact. They didn't know why it was Cape Coral, Florida. They didn't know why it took 15 minutes. They just knew that it worked. And they were willing to purchase this property for that reason. So, these whistleblowers with this breakaway technology of that we don't believe in, right? These traversable wormholes, for example. If you look at NIDS, which is the National Institute for Discovery Science, which worked at the old Bigelow Ranch, for example, the data that they had, investigators were seeing naturally occurring wormholes with things coming in and out of them. Some of those things looked like hominids. And they would open up in the sky in broad daylight. Triangular craft would come through as well. So this indicates that these things happen naturally, and therefore they can also happen man-made if they're used, or if this technology is utilized in an area where it's happening naturally anyway. So I think that, yeah, like you said, these whistleblowers are coming through. And as an example, we catch parts of all kinds of animals that don't exist up there, and sometimes the entire animal. As an example, these are like dire wolf teeth that have been collected up at Space Wolf Research, and there are
Wow.
a number of other parts that we'll see. We'll see everything from. I was walking with one gentleman, and we walked. The only thing that can explain it is either an apport or a traversable wormhole. So both of those are
Right.
quantum. And we
Right.
were walking, and we came back just moments later, and there was a large deer leg, warm to the touch, bloody, right where we had just walked. And
Wow.
it's just fascinating that these things happen. His name is Doug Wright, and he doesn't mind if I share his name. He's a veteran, lives over in Colorado, but he was just like, "What is up with that?" And I said, "These things happen. We've had fish fall from the sky. You find you'll get on camera, or you'll find body parts of different animals that don't necessarily or shouldn't necessarily be there. Some animals which should technically be extinct." So the timelines and the space involved, I believe, all lend themselves to things that look like wormholes or portals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Wow. So much information. So I got kind of a quirky question for you. Um, I've had friends over the years, off and on, who are Mormons. And I'm not trying to pick at the Mormons. That's not at all my intention here. I just have this question. I thought, you know what? Next time I see Ryan, I'm going to ask him. Maybe he would know. And a couple of things. First of all, the church is worth somewhere between 250 and 500 billion dollars. So I got to ask, what are they doing with all the money? Every Mormon I ask has no idea. But then on top of that, there are, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, a huge number of people who are Mormons who also work in secret government ops because they can keep their mouths shut, and they're not on drugs, and they're very loyal and sincere, beautiful people, and they're perfect for that job. But I also know the Mormon religion is an ET religion. A lot of people don't realize it, that they recognize a mother, father, God that are ETs. So I'm wondering, if you pour all that into the mix, the money that the church has, and of course it's investments, but they're invested in all kinds of stuff that I don't know, is kind of a little bit questionable to me. But I'm not trying to judge. I'm just throwing it out there. Then you add that it's an ET religion. Then you add that they're in all these often bureaucratic positions, in government and in the different operations. And I'm wondering, how much influence do you think the Mormon Church has on the possibility of breakaway civilizations and other tech? Is that rude to ask? I hope not.
Not at all. I grew up in, as you know, in Salt Lake City, Utah. I went to the University of Utah, which is where the previous leader of the Mormon Church went to school, and he was a member of Order 322, Skull and Bones, the second chapter, which is known as the Bonesmen. Believe it or not, in 1910, we're at the University of Utah. Everybody thinks of Skull and Bones and they think of Yale, and that's true for the first chapter. But there is a second order, Order 322 of the Bonesmen, Skull and Bones, out of the University of Utah. And interesting that you mentioned this, because they are wonderful people. I really appreciate Mormons because or the LDS as they prefer to be called, because of how important family is to them.
Yes.
Like you said, the moral high ground is always taken. They're the best neighbors you can have. I grew up, all of my friends, for all intents and purposes, I was the only odd man out. And I'll be 100% honest, wonderful people. I absolutely adore them. But as you mentioned, a unique aspect of LDS theology is the belief that God created many earths and that their inhabitants are begotten sons and daughters unto God, meaning that many worlds are inhabited, which is exactly breakaway civilizations.
So how likely do you think that is? I mean, I just was thinking about it. I don't know why information comes together in my brain. I gather it as I go through my life, and it's like it gets tossed in my brain like a salad, and then spits out these wonderings that I wonder about. So how? I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. Or do you think it is?
No, I mean it's right there. Many church leaders, including Brigham Young, taught that mankind originated from other planets, and that is, I mean, technically what you're saying. So it just depends on semantics, but there's
Mhm.
very much, I mean, semantics whenever you discuss non-human intelligence and where that lends itself to cosmic intelligence, extraterrestrials, intraterrestrials, extra
Mhm.
dimensionals. All of these could be exalted entities. So
Yeah.
it, I think there's a connection 100%.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, look fearlessly. That's a juicy tidbit. Her great grandfather was the leader of the Toronto Scottish Rite. Very cool. Okay, well, I think I'm kind of talked out now. This has been amazing. Ryan, you're such a wealth of information. I love having you on the show because we can just get down dirty on any topic, and I appreciate you very much. But I'd like you to, before we close out the show, tell people again where they can find you, what tell them about Hero Paranormal, tell them about Space Wolf, and anything else you want the audience to know before we close out the show today. And thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate you. I'm so grateful you're my friend.
I appreciate you, Karen, and the same goes back to you. I'm also very, very grateful. Yeah, you pretty much covered it. You can find me on YouTube at Hero Paranormal or go to heroparanormal.com. And a little science project, a base up in the Uinta Basin of Utah, known as spacewolfresearch.com. And yeah, I'm out there. You can find me.
Yep, and the links will be in the description below. I want to thank everyone who made the effort to come and join us in the live chat. I love it. You guys are awesome. You're so kind and respectful to each other. I appreciate you so much. But also, you have really interesting comments that I love throwing up on the stage. Throwing up on the stage, that does not sound right. Thing to the stage there, that's a little better. And I just appreciate you also very, very much. Thank you again, Denise, for moderating and for your super chat. That is so very kind of you. Absolutely. I wouldn't want to do the show without you guys now. Of course, I could if I had to, but I don't want to. And I guess that's about it for today. I also want to thank those that are listening on an audio podcast and also the replays, which are all over the place, Telegram, Odyssey. The lives are on X and Rumble, and I'll be putting the replay back up on YouTube as well. So I want to thank everybody. So they're making fun of me in the chat. Yeah, that is not what I was trying to say, but thank you. Yeah. And I guess that's it. I don't know. I'm going to have Joan Wyden back next week. I've got Skyrunner and Mia. I'm sorry, I forgot her last name, on Sunday on the Aliens and Angels podcast. And just much love and light to all of you. And I'm so grateful that you're all my friends. So take care, everybody. And we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye now. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Check out my website at www.krenholton.com KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.